All right, good morning, everyone. Let's get started.
Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning, Nicole. How's it going?
Good.
Awesome. So, everyone, welcome to Autodesk Virtual Academy. Today is Thursday, August 6th, 2020, and I'm really excited for today's session, partially because I get to work with Nicole, who hasn't been on here for quite some time. So welcome back, Nicole.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So Nicole's one of the customer success managers here on the KETIV team. If you've called into KETIV for technical help or some guidance over the last many years, Nicole is likely one of the people who's helped you in the past. So I'm definitely happy that we have that resource with us today. Additionally, we have Emily from Autodesk who's going to answer some questions here on the back end as well. Emily, good morning. How's it going?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. I'll just introduce myself quickly. I'm Emily Svensson. I'm the product manager for user management. I work with Autodesk.
Awesome. Glad to have you here today. And the reason we have Emily here today is because Emily's here to answer a ton of questions. And she helped us put this presentation together so that we can help guide everyone through the accounts portion of your Autodesk software. Everyone needs to install software, right? You need to download, you need to install software. A lot of the process has changed in terms of the interface, so we definitely want to make sure that you're all aware of what that looks like and how to navigate the account portal and do what you need to from an administrative standpoint when it comes to your seats. So that's why I put this here together. Expect to be here for 40 plus minutes as we go through the entire account portal process. Nicole will kind of lead that as well. If anyone has any questions during this presentation, go ahead and type those in. I'll make sure to address those either by answering you behind the scenes, or we'll go ahead and address those out loud during the Q&A session at the end of this presentation. But before we get started, anything else to add, Nicole or Emily?
Nope, that sounds like a great introduction. Thank you, Nigel.
Let's go.
Okay. Everybody seeing my screen? Correct?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you, Nigel. Yeah, so you might figure, well, the portal is actually intended to help simplify the process. So why do we need a 30 to 40 minute presentation on how to use the portal? Well, I want to share with you some shortcuts. I want to share with you some changes and some new features that have happened, and also some tips that we like to use. So we're just trying to make things better. We're trying to help you manage better. So. And also, this is an opportunity for Emily to get some feedback from you guys. Emily, as she mentioned, is in charge of user management in the Autodesk Account Portal. And her goal is to enable admins to manage their users properly. And she wants that feedback. And she's been she's worked with us closely in the last year, helping us get past some hurdles that we had with some larger customers. So she's been great for KETIV, and we really appreciate having her here today. So as Nigel mentioned, if you have questions, Emily's a panelist, so she can see those questions in the chat panel. So please feel free to ask her. If there's anything that she feels that she wants to share with the masses, she can share that in the Q&A at the end live. So your questions may come back again. And then, like I said, we'll open it up for Q&A. Okay. So we're first going to go through some definitions of some terminology, just so that we know what we're talking about and that we're on the same page here. We'll go through some recent changes at Autodesk and with the licensing and with the account portal. And then we'll do a quick admin tour and just basically go through some of those tips and tricks I was talking about. We'll talk about how to set up the named user and some again tips. We have some troubleshooting tips for installation and some challenges that we've faced, and so that you guys have those in your arsenal. And then we'll talk about next steps and finally the Q&A. So that's our plan. All right, let's get rolling. So definitions. Starting with the contract manager, and I could have simplified this slide, but it makes sense for you guys to be able to see it while I'm talking about it. The contract manager is typically just, traditionally it was more involved with assigning users and managing the licenses and whatnot, but now it's just the billing part of it, okay, with the new going forward. So billing only, and you'll get the emails for renewals and whatnot from Autodesk. The primary admin and the secondary admin are the administrator roles that are on the account portal. The primary admin and secondary admin are the same, basically, except that for a couple differences. One is that primary can only have one primary admin. By default, it's the contract manager, but it doesn't have to stay that way. You can change that yourself on the portal, and I'll show you where that is. Also, by default, the contract manager or primary admin usually is a signed product. So watch out for that. If you are not a user, also be sure to unassign yourself from that product. I'll try to bring that up again later. So they can manage user access, they can assign primary and secondary admins, they can view usage reports, and primary only can actually manage the single sign-on. That is for the premium, which we'll briefly discuss later in this presentation. The secondary admin, really the only change is that you can have as many as you want, and also they cannot do the SSO at this point at least. Okay, so named user. So these are the people that are going to be assigning the licenses, and you can also download and install and do all that too. But the named user can just download software. They can adjust their security settings, their password, their profile, whatnot. They can link to like LinkedIn and Twitter and whatnot. So that's the named user, and that's the individual people that are using the software. Over on the right-hand side, we have license types. So you might hear me talk about network or multi-user. They're the same thing. So at this point, you know, sometimes the terminology changes from year to year. So if I say one or the other, I've been here 22 years, so the names change. And so sometimes that'll happen. Also down here, named user, when I talk about that, that's that single standalone person. Sometimes we call it single user, sometimes we call it sign-in style. But you might hear all these, they're all named user, it's all the same thing, okay? These are all the subscription types, is current network and named user. Okay. Of the recent changes, we're going to focus mainly on the Autodesk Account Portal. In January of this year, Autodesk finally completed the transition of moving everybody that had assigned users to this new portal. One thing it did that was a big change was removing serial numbers from the process. So now users simply need to sign in with their email address, and we'll talk about that more in depth. But it has actually simplified things greatly. It may seem like a change that doesn't make any sense to you, but in the background, there's not a lot of moving around of serial numbers, and it was pretty difficult to manage. So they want to simplify the process, and you'll see that the portal is continuously evolving. Emily and I were just talking about that before the presentation. I've even seen things that have come in the last couple weeks. So I love that it's continuously evolving and they're always taking feedback. So this is great. Briefly, I want to mention Autodesk is moving all network licenses to named user over this next year. The point of that is to reduce IT burden, to improve the usage and insight of always getting people with network licenses saying, how can I see how much my users are using the software? And this will be a way that you'll have more insight to how much of your product's being used. But also to have those people have dedicated access. You should not have engineers that launch a software and they don't have a license so they can't do their work. That just doesn't make any sense. And that happens more than it needs to. So having dedicated access to the users is just more productive in general for those people. They are working on a 2-for-1 deal. So after this Friday, August 7th, you will now be able to do a 2-for-1 deal. So next time your renewal comes up, they'll be offering you a 2-for-1. So if you have 10 licenses, you will get 20 for the same price. And so that is huge. And if you have questions about that, there is a broadcast that we did on this recently, and I have it posted. I'll show you where that is in just a second. And that was done by Long and Alex. They are on our customer success team. They are in charge of licensing and renewals. They are open for your guys' calls and your emails. They have the answers to all those questions that you might have about network license to named user. And premium subscription is also another broadcast that we've recently done. That includes additional features like single sign-on and detailed reports about user information, like how much the user is using product, and also the global licensing. So I'm going to click over to that our website. So this is our website, KETIV.com, and under here, there's a resources page. There's some great resources on this page. Advanced manufacturing, simulation resources, but this guy is where I'm headed. And so I think Nigel's putting that post up in the chat.
Yep. Give me a second.
So here are, this was my last year's blog post about the customer experience site. Be curious to go back and see how much has changed. But here are the presentations. This one here is for transitioning to the named account, and then also the premium plan one here too. So these are really great presentations if you have more questions about that. Okay, this is a great site anyway, and this is open to everybody. So I recommend it highly. Okay, so we're going to focus on the account portal. Let me get going on that. Again, take a screenshot of these contacts for more information about these two. Got it? Awesome. Okay, so let's do an account admin tour. We're going to first talk about the home page. I think it's a very overlooked page. There's a lot of good information on it. I go to it all the time, and I love it. So I'm going to share that with you. Talk about software product updates, adding and assigning users, product usage reporting. And so I like to go in via manage.autodesk at manage.autodesk.com. It's just a quick way to type it. And I am in a sandbox right now. So I'll go ahead and go to the home page here. This is a sandbox from Autodesk so that I could protect the innocent here. So on this site, one of my favorite things is this admin tour, which by the way just changed recently. So this now includes, this is now the premium tour, or the standard admin tour. And so it is a lot shorter, it is more succinct, and so it's a brief overview of some of the things that I'm going to talk about today. So I highly recommend this video. It is on your homepage if you are a primary or secondary admin. I'm going to stop here, and I skipped a spot. Nigel, can you do a poll for me about who's on the call? So there's a couple questions here. The first one being I want to see who is on the call. So are you the contract manager, primary admin, secondary admin, or user? I just was curious about who is on this call. Also, I would like to know what best describes your situation. Are you switching from network to standalone? Are you switching from maintenance to subscription? Are you just here for a better understanding of what your options are? And then also, have you already transitioned but just want more information? So if you could, best possible scenario, go ahead and choose that. We'll leave that open. I think there's even an other on that list.
Yep. Yeah, so we'll give everyone another 15 seconds or so to answer so that we give everyone the ample opportunity to fill in their information. All right, cool. So I'm going to end this, and I'm going to share the results so everyone can see them.
Awesome. Okay, so we've got a pretty good split here. Too many M2S there. That's good. Awesome. Very good. Okay, thank you. Okay, let me get back to where I was. So we're going to go to the admin tour. And on this page, I like this video here. I also like the fact that upcoming expirations, this will take you right to that particular contract that's expiring. That's really helpful, just to keep an eye on that. You don't want to let things expire while you're not paying attention. So our renewal reps are on top of that. So if you're working with us, you'll hear from Long and Alex about your renewal coming up. Should hear about it 90 days prior to the update. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to come over to, also you have recent product updates within the last 30 days, which is really helpful. We'll go ahead and go to products and services. Now I'm going to talk more about installation later, but you'll see that you have the ability to install for all of your users. One of my favorite things in here is when you go to your product, You can choose what product you have. By default, it's install now. Most of us here like to use the browser download. That's more of a philosophy thing, and I can get into more of that in the follow-up blog post that I'm going to do. I just wanted to keep this fairly short. There's a lot of ground to cover, but we prefer this browser download method. Just seems to be more stable, and because the install now will be affected by your internet connection. So if you have any problems with your internet connection, this will probably have a problem. But browser download usually is pretty straightforward, and it's more traditional what we're used to too. So if you like this browser download method also, up in the top on the right, you have download preferences. And so you can actually change that preference, which I love that you can do that. And here now always it will show when it's available. So that's really nice. The other thing I like to do in here is if you have updates and add-ons, see how I'm in 3ds Max, I can go to updates and add-ons and it will show me just the updates and add-ons for 3ds Max. So rather than getting a data dump of 200 updates, I'm just seeing the ones that I need for that product. This has Max and Vault in here, as opposed to going to the product updates list and having this huge list. Now on that huge list, it might take a little bit. On this huge list, there's ways to filter. You can filter for product, you can filter by year, you can filter by, this has more, and you can filter this way. One of the things I like up here is this little magnifying glass. And so I might look for Vault 2020. Done. So that to me makes it really simple. Back to my products and services here. I can also filter out for only show me the Autodesk ID ones instead of network licenses, or only show me ones that are available in a certain version. Only available on Windows 64, or only available on the language. So this is really helpful to have these filters as well, especially if you have a long list of products. This one's not too bad. So as you'll notice when you look at your product though, it says sign in. There's no more serial numbers there. So that's a really helpful thing. And having that, then we're only dealing with it when you're talking about a subscription ID. And I'll bring that back up a little bit later. But for now, users just download, install, and sign in. And so we'll talk about that, the user experience in a little bit. So downloading and installing product, I'll come back to that. But let's talk about the user management. Okay, by default, your primary admin is already assigned a product. We talked about that. If that is the contract manager, it is the default primary admin, but you can change that. So in this case, it's Luna Lovegood. I'm going to go ahead and look at Luna's, and I can go to, so you'll see that she's the primary admin. If I want to, she's also assigned product. If I wanted to unassign her, I can simply go and unassign, and she is no longer assigned product. If she's admin, she's not a user, she doesn't need to be assigned product. She still has access to see them, but not necessarily need to use them. Okay, so if I have somebody who is a secondary admin, they can go in and change that role to primary admin. So we can go ahead and change and make somebody else the primary, which will make Luna the secondary admin. So you have the ability to change that. You can also change them to a user. You can also change any user to a secondary admin. Remember, only one primary admin. So you can assign or unassign product here. These are ones available or not available. And these are what has been assigned. Okay. So if I go to by product, now you'll see that there are 20 of 25 seats available of the BIM design. If I expand that, you'll see who is currently assigned. If I want to add users, you just simply start typing in here, and now you have people that you can add. You can either start typing their name or you can just assign them here. You can also now import multiple users to have them already assigned to this product. So you can upload a CSV file, and this will have instructions on how to do that. That's fairly new, okay? And then assign, you can also copy paste, and there's a format that you'll want to follow. So you can actually add the names right in here too. But I like that, the ability to import them. On the user side, if you want to add a new user, you can invite user. You can fill out their first and last name and their email address. And then you can also invite multiple people. You can paste in names, and it's usually in this format. And then you can also import, same thing. So that's really nice. I'll be able to do a lot of people at one time. I think I was told the other day that you wanted to change email addresses. Currently, that is not, you have to add them again and assign them product. But there are, like I said, there's quick ways to do that. Okay, so I'm going to come back to some more advanced options here, but in general, you would go in and invite your users, you would assign them product, and the account admin part can be done. So that, I mean, it can be that simple. But there are some other things that happen in the real world. You can also manage your contracts. You can understand when they are going to expire. You can see the information about the contract and their subscription ID, which is, it's not really a serial number, because you don't really need a serial number, but they're calling it subscription ID, and their expiration date. This is really valuable. Now, I'm going to talk about how some people, when they have quite a few users, are managing multiple contracts. So keeping track of having a spreadsheet can help you in a couple ways. One is that if you have people that are not involved with the Autodesk Account Portal or don't need to be, they can see who is assigned a product without having to learn a lot, right? They just look at the spreadsheet, and you can keep this in a live place where all of you can look at it. You've got the contracts, you've got the expiration date, you've got the product, or I'm sorry, this should say subscription ID, product, the number of seats, and the email addresses. This is a pretty flat and a pretty easy one to do. If you had an extra seat available, you would just have nobody sitting there, right? So I have people that are just primary and secondary admin and are not also users here as well. Okay, you can keep notes about things that you want to be, you're definitely going to renew this, or you're going to let that drop, or whatever you're deciding to do with your future of that. Another advanced option that they've added, we had some customers that had multiple offices. So you had many users and maybe even different teams where the cost centers of that team are paying for the software. So you want to make sure that only people on that team can see and be assigned that software. So what they introduced was teams. And so I'm going to turn on this list, and you'll see that this is the Slytherin team, and we have the Gryffindor team. Each of them have their own primary and secondary admins, and each of them have separate users. Let me show you what that looks like in the portal. Okay, so I'm going to go to by product. Okay. So up here, you might have noticed a thing that nobody knows what it is, right? This is the teams. And so teams, you can actually split your product across multiple teams. And how that happens is you let us know, or you let Autodesk know that you say, I want this contract or this subscription ID to be on this team. They'll give it a team name. You can always change the team name. So that's the option that you have, is to change the team name. There you go. So you can just rename that team to whatever you want so that it makes sense to you. And so you see that this team only has this product. And if I go to the users, it shows me the users that are available for Slytherin. If I switch to the Gryffindor team, now these are the users for Gryffindor team, and of course this is the product for Gryffindor. Pretty simple. So it does help to keep track of it in a spreadsheet so that you have your inner workings in the background, and then this should mirror that, whatever you end up doing. And it just kind of helps you set a plan in place. The most important thing to remember is that the product needs to be moved by Autodesk currently. There's talks of in the future that might be changing, but for right now, you just need to let somebody know, either your reseller or Autodesk directly. You can say, I want this, and you need to be a primary or secondary. I think you need to be the contract manager to let them know that you want the change to be. So just keep that in mind. If you want more information, I've done a lot with it, so please feel free to reach out to me. I don't want to muddy this with that concept, but it's really been helpful. So regardless of whether you're using Teams or not, keeping a spreadsheet can be really helpful just internally if you have a large team. If you only have under 10 users, probably not worth your effort, right? But sometimes it can help you keep track of contracts and whatnot, and who's using what software. Managing multiple offices and cost centers. Okay, so that's about it for that. So let's say you've assigned a user. What happens to the user now? It doesn't just go off into space, right? So let's talk about that named user's experience. So your named user is going to get an email, and it's going to say, time to create your account. And so when they get this email, they'll click on this button. It'll let them log in as a user. They can log in and update their profile with a new password. They can adjust the security settings. They can even do some other admin. They can even do some additional things in their profile. I'll show you that. They can also, either the user can download, and they will be allowed to download and install their product, whether or not they have administrative privileges on your end. That's up to you guys. But it can take that pressure off the IT admin if they have local admin rights. Okay, so I'll talk about that in a minute. And then they simply, once they've installed it, they launch and sign in. So again, they get an email, they accept it and add a password, they install, launch, and sign in. That's the overview there. So a couple other little housekeeping things. If you are changing from suites to collection, we found that most people need to reinstall. I didn't see a lot of people having that problem here. Changing from network to named user. So those of you who have multi-user and you are changing from new user, it's very simple. Inside of your product, and all Autodesk products have this, there's a manage license option. Once you choose that, you'll see the product there, and you'll see change license type. The next time you launch your software, you'll see a screenshot that looks like this. This is the newest version of it. So you can either switch users or sign in. I think usually it says sign in up here, or you can do the network license. In the old version, it used to look more like this. Okay. So this has changed a little bit to looking like this. Okay. So what challenges do you face? This looks pretty simple, right? But we do have people with some challenges. That's why we have a support team. So here's some tips. Downloading options, like I said, changing in the portal, the default option, that's really helpful because then you don't have to, oh shoot, I forgot to use that option. Benefits of downloading the software is that if you download the software, it'll allow you to extract it. And then once you extract it, it'll be like having the media on your computer. It's usually in the C Autodesk, and then it'll have a folder. When you install it, everything's good, but that media remains on your computer. If you have space issues where you don't have enough space to have that, some people like to do the install now. The challenges with the install now is if you have to repair or reinstall your software, usually you have to download it again and extract it. So we just like it for the long haul. We use the download and install when possible. Let me know if you have questions on that, if that was convoluted, but I know what I mean, so just let me know. Local admin rights is recommended. I've seen people do it without local admin rights, but you're going to run into problems. So be aware of that. Letting your users have local admin can really help them a lot. Sometimes it's not possible, but you know, that's what they're recommending. Sign-in style not available. Over here on the right, you'll see the Let's Get Started window, and instead of seeing the two options, the sign-in and the multi-user, you'll only see the multi-user. This is usually because the firewall is blocking something from Autodesk licensing. So what I do recommend is that you turn off the UAC access when you're installing, first of all. The UAC, you simply type it in your Windows, just UAC, it's User Access Control. Slide that bar all the way to the bottom if you can. If your company doesn't allow it, you might run into problems with things not installing properly or completely. What UAC does with Windows is it says, do you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? Do you really want to make changes? It just really interrupts the installation process. So Autodesk recommends turning that off. And also we recommend Autodesk whitelisting. And Nigel's going to put up a whole slew of whitelisting links there in the chat panel. There's 3 of them specifically. One of them has to do just with subscription. So if you have subscription licenses, there's a list of whitelisting for your antivirus where you include these things as exceptions, right? That's just for subscription. And not everybody has this problem, but we have seen it often enough that if you start with that, you're going to be good. One of the links is going to be for performance. And Autodesk products perform better when these particular areas are whitelisted. And just in general, they're going to perform better. The third one is for Vault specifically, which is going to be a Vault performance one as well. So I do recommend that you share those with your IT people. If you are the IT people, please review them. Ask us if you don't understand it. We've been through it. We share this on a daily basis. We share these 3 links. So yeah, I'm also going to be writing a blog post and it will include this in a little more detail around that. Okay, so those are the main things that happen here. One more thing that we're seeing, as I mentioned, if you're changing from network license to standalone license, all you do is simply say change license type. And most of the time, 90% of the time when you launch the software, you can sign in. But if for some reason the reset doesn't work or the change license type doesn't work, you can do a license reset. There is a link in there that Nigel's also sharing that'll be for license reset. It will also be in my blog post. It's one we use every day. It has several releases in there from 2017, I believe, all the way to the current 2021, because there's a different process for each release. So, and we also have some tricks, so feel free to let us know at KETIV Lifeline. So I wanted to point out something new, which is the deployments. This popped up in our portal in the last 2 weeks. We've already used it on a couple with a couple customers, pretty streamlined. What is a deployment? Okay, so a deployment, typically, you know, up here you're talking about downloading and installing an individual license. But a deployment is a package that you can put on a server or use Microsoft, you know, SCCM, your, you know, deployment software to put a package in there. And then your users would just access that package. They wouldn't have to go to the website and download and do all that stuff. And you can access the package. So on Autodesk website, back on the portal, you see now that there's an option for deployments. And you can simply give it a path of where you want the deployment to be created, or this is where the install is going to happen for the user's computers. And then this is the product that I'm adding. And you can go to next down here, give it the configuration information and next, and then it'll allow you to create that package. It's actually pretty straightforward. The only challenge what I see with it so far is that you can't configure it. So for like AutoCAD Electrical, I recommend that people pick the particular libraries they want and those settings, so it's not editable to that degree. So just keep that in mind. But if you're doing a mass install of like AutoCAD with the out-of-the-box settings or Max with the out-of-the-box settings, this is awesome. So Vault is another one you don't really configure a lot beforehand, so it would be good to roll out Vault with that. So anyway, not everything's available there yet, but it is probably will be eventually, but it's a really good thing to poke at. So anyway, I recommend highly looking at that. Okay, so let me see where I'm at. Yeah, so deployments. So troubleshooting, make sure your firewalls are down, or not necessarily down, but accepting Autodesk. Okay. One thing I didn't show, bear with me, is the reporting. So usage reporting, I think I have a slide because it can take a little bit of time. So I want to show this. So the usage reporting, just right here, the seat usage. In the standard subscription, it only has product by product. So you can look at the whole collection. You see 9 people are using their collection. And then you can drill down a little bit further and say within that collection, 7 people are using AutoCAD and 4 people are using Revit. So that's within the last 3 months. And you can filter that as you like to see what that information is. So the primary and secondary admins can both see this information. In the premium subscription, you'll be able to drill down to the user level and see what the user's actually using. So you'll know, I get a lot of questions, how do I know if Joe is using this software? It's like, well, you know, we can't really see it here, but when you have a premium subscription, you'll be able to see that. So that can be really helpful. Okay, so let me get back here. So next steps, what do we do? If you are the admins, there is a subscription video on your homepage. If you are a user, there is a user tour on your homepage. This one's really short, it's less than 2 minutes. Very helpful. It just shows them how to download and edit their profile. Let me talk about that real briefly. This is an example of a user's account. Yeah, this is Jeff Perez's account. I stole Jeff's account this morning. So there's my user tour. The user can see products, but can't see the reporting, can't assign users, right? And then he can also come in here and he can adjust his profile. He can adjust his contact information, his security settings, turn on 2-step verification, edit his password. He can link to Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, all of these guys, right? Adjust any preferences here with language and communication. And that's it, and go back to manage your product. So pretty simple for the user. The biggest part is putting that password and the security in, and then downloading their products if they want to. Okay, let me go ahead and stop there. I'm going to go back to my presentation. So next steps here, set up and assign users as needed. Users and admins, users or admin do the install, and users changing the license type. If you're just changing to sign-in style, then you simply just change the license type. You don't have to reinstall. Organize teams if necessary, and contact us for more information about premium subscription. So I am going to send a blog post with more details. This is a lot of information to put in a short amount of time, but I wanted to spend some time on the Q&A with Emily. So let's open that up. The next session is going to be on understanding and managing Inventor Content Center. That'll be next Thursday, August 13th. If you have questions about this, or you want to reach out to us, this is our phone number and our support line. And don't forget to visit our KETIV events. Okay, so let's open this up for questions. I may roll back to this slide so that you have that contact information, but I wanted to give you this information here. So let's open this up. So Nigel, do we have any questions that have come in?
Yeah, Emily and myself were answering some in the back. So Emily, definitely thank you for jumping on a ton of these questions. Um, let's see here. Question from Michael. Downloading is not allowed at our company. Are jump drives still available? It's a great question from Michael. So in terms of USB drives, you can contact your renewal representative, whoever that is, that's Long or Alex, or your account representative, and that person should be able to get you some sort of USB flash drive if needed for some of the software. So definitely just reach out to whoever here at KETIV is responsible for your account, and we'll go ahead and get you sorted on that. So answered. All right. Can you add updates in a deployment? It's a great question from Scott. Nicole?
On this deployment, I think it does allow you to add that. It's fairly new to me. So, and like I said, only some products are available there now.
Yeah.
Normal deployment, yes. But on this,
if you did, correct. Yeah, if you did a normal deployment through the software, you can do it. But from the account portal, when you do deployments, I didn't see an option to add all the updates.
I saw the option, I just hadn't used it. So
okay. Emily.
So I don't know.
Yeah. There you go. I'm not an expert on the new deployments tab, so I don't want to give you bad information. But it does have new capabilities within the new deployments tab that are not available in the old way of doing deployments. And then other things are being built in over time. So you may or may not see this deployments tab in your account because it's currently only enabled for certain products, and those products are being newly onboarded over time. So as you get to a point where your products are onboarded, you'll start to see this option in there.
Yep, and that doesn't mean that you still can't do deployments the old-fashioned way from a product download itself. You can still do that, especially if you want to customize the deployment itself. You can certainly still do that the old-fashioned way. And then Michael has a question. This comes up a lot. I don't want my users downloading and installing software. Can I set it so users cannot download and install software?
So we do allow that in account for enterprise customers, but at this point in time, it's not available for customers outside of the enterprise plan. And the recommendation from Autodesk is to leverage the device controls on your computer to control whether or not that person can actually download and install software on their device.
Thank you, Emily.
Mm-hmm. Another option to look into is like the Microsoft SCCM. There's many and similar tools where you put up a deployment package and then users can actually get what they need. It'll take a lot of effort off of your IT department. You have to always be available to install too. So that's something to look into. We've got a lot of people doing that.
I think this is Tony based on the username. Can we create multiple different deployments for multiple groups? So you can, when you're creating deployments the old-fashioned way, from the actual product download itself, from the Autodesk webpage, you can create, I guess you can theoretically create as many deployments as you want, in theory, and then just use those. So I think that's Tony based on the username. Tony, if you have any questions, reach out to me. You know how to get to me.
Yeah, on that end, the one in the portal, you can make as many as you want with the many different names, but since you're not configuring it, it's kind of more of an out-of-the-box install. It's not helping anything to have separate deployments. But the old way where you actually use it from the media, when you install the media, there's an option to do deployments that way as well when you download and then run it.
Yep.
That one will allow you to do things like this one's a network, this one's a standalone, this one's a has this configuration for the East Coast and this configuration for the West Coast or whatever. So that the old style deployment would probably work better for you.
I do see a question in the chat around how many times customers are asked to log in to their software and the new sign-in method, and if that number is customizable at all. So users have to log in once every 30 days, they'll be prompted. And that's really there to make sure that they still have a license, they're still enabled by you to manage or to log into those products. And so they will be prompted every 30 days to log in. And it's not customizable user by user.
It's similar to doing like a license check, right? It's just making sure that everything's still valid.
Mm-hmm.
One good thing about that that I've seen and I actually heard from customers as well, if a user leaves the company and they had product installed on their home machine or whatever, if you unassign them product, they'll still have the software for 30 days like a trial, and then it'll expire, just as if they had downloaded and installed a trial. So it's good for them while they're looking for work, and then it's also not, it doesn't put you at risk of being out of compliance. Really a nice thing for people.
Yeah, and there's a follow-up there from Damien, and he said that some users were prompted every day for a week. At that point, if it's excessive like that, reach out to us and we'll figure out what's going on. Yeah. I'll raise my hand, reach out to us, and we'll figure it out. If we need to call Emily, we'll call Emily. But yeah, it shouldn't be once a day.
No, it should not.
Yeah.
Is this still happening, Damien? Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we fixed it.
There might have been something happening on an update or something. I do notice that if you unassign and reassign somebody in the portal, then, or if you change teams or do things like that, sometimes it'll ask you to reassign.
Yep, yeah. I've seen that a couple times too. And there are some licensing updates too. So it's not just, sometimes it's not just your product software updates. Please continuously check your Autodesk desktop application for updates for your software. Even if it doesn't say Inventor and it says something along the lines of like licensing update, please install that. Because if you do run into issues, sometimes it is those updates that aren't necessarily Inventor or Vault or AutoCAD specific that are making your software not work ideally. So desktop app, check it, please.
Maynard, yes, that answers your question, yes. But you can still use all of those features, just you don't have to assign licenses if you're by yourself. Right? You are the guy. So you're already assigned license by default.
Yeah, and so this is from Tony. With the suite, before we were able to use one license for all software under that particular suite. For example, AutoCAD Inventor used one license, right? Because you had a suite. How does the new user licensing count license usage? So Tony, if you have the collection, I believe you do. I can double check, but I'm 99% positive you guys have collections. And collections is just a newer packaging from the suites. If you're using Inventor and AutoCAD, that's still one seat if you have a collection for those users. So as long as both products exist in the collection and one user is using multiple of those, you're grabbing one license. If for some reason that's not happening for some strange reason, let us know. We've seen it happen before. Sometimes it's from people using different versions of like say AutoCAD and Inventor and stuff like that. And it sometimes double counts. So if you're running into those issues, let me know and we can get that sorted for you.
Oh, Emily mentioned, while we're waiting for questions to come in, Emily mentioned a website that we're going to put up in the portal. And this is the roadmap. So this is the Customer Success Learning Hub. And on this, oh, sorry, I was on the right screen. This is the Learning Hub. Again, with your admin tour. This is a little bit deeper admin tour. This is the one that was there up to a couple days ago. You have your Autodesk account roadmap, which I'll come back to. But also on here are some really good communications to you about ways to do things, you know, tips on how to do things better, right? So what I wanted to show though was this other, right here. So there's an account roadmap update. And this basically shows things that they're getting ready to change or they're updating, inviting in bulk, making it easier to invite, streamlining unassigned and assigned workflows, sign-in style on premium and enterprise. So you can go through and look at the things that are coming so that you can be a little more on the up of what's happening in the portal so that you're not surprised by the changes.
Yep, and the account portal is not the only thing they have public roadmaps for, right? There's a lot of the Autodesk teams do have public roadmaps. If you're curious, just Google, right, whatever product you're using and then public roadmap, and then maybe it'll pop up. And it tells you like, hey, these are things they're working on moving forward. So.
Yeah, and one suggestion I have related to that is many of the product teams within Autodesk, including the Autodesk account team, have what we call idea boards. You see, Nicole, there's a link to the idea board there for account. And the product teams take a look at those for new ideas that are coming in from customers and from partners. You can see what other people have already submitted. You can vote for things. If you see somebody submitted an idea that you really want to see happen, our teams do go through this pretty frequently and make sure that we're keeping an eye on any new ideas that are coming in and pulling things in when we need to as well. You can filter in here by things that have been implemented from this list or things that are under review or things that we've put as future consideration that we think we'll do in the future, but it just might be a little while. So this is a really great resource.
It is. A lot of our users are used to the ones for Inventor and AutoCAD and some of the other products. Autodesk does look at these for what's coming in the new. So if you have suggestions, this is a great place. You can also let us know. We can share it with the team directly. But having it on here allows people to vote for it. And if you have a lot of people voting for a suggestion, it's more likely to get put in. So it shows that more people are interested in that solution. So please vote for your favorites and put your suggestions up here. It's really a great place to share feedback.
And then the last question before we finish here, Jacob's asking, will the assigned user style put an end to floating licenses? And Nicole, you can answer that, I guess, or Emily.
Yes, so we've actually done a video or a broadcast recently about that. It's on our resources page that'll talk more about that. But yes, they are removing floating licenses. Currently, they are pointing toward only government having floating licenses, but that may even change in the future. So that is discussed in that topic, and you can also reach out to Long No, who did that presentation. They'll have even more information for you, but they are putting it into it. They are, just a little note about the network licenses, they've been around since I've been here, which is 22 years. They are an older, outdated licensing mechanism. They are a lot to maintain. So we're looking forward to that change. So.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to stay within compliance too. So if that's a concern for a lot of people, it does make sense. So yeah, if you have any questions about the network license transition to single user, let us know. There are some promotions around that. There are those videos. And the promotions are super lucrative. So definitely let us know if you have any questions around that, and we'll go ahead and point you in the right direction or to the right people. All right, I think that's it for questions. Again, Nicole, thanks so much for joining us today and showing us around Harry Potter's account portal. Definitely really excited about that one. Emily, thank you for putting that all together so that we didn't have to expose all of our secret information to the world and in terms of our licenses and stuff, and for helping us answer all of these questions in the background. If anyone has anything further to ask, you can certainly reply to any of the emails that our marketing team sends you with any questions that you do have, whether or not they're related to that email or not, and they'll go ahead and get sent to someone on our team who can address that for you. Like we said, if you have anything further, contact the support team or answer one of those emails. And if you want to see more stuff like this, let us know. Oftentimes we go into the product and how the products work, but sometimes we really just want to make sure that from a productivity standpoint, in terms of setting everything up, you guys are successful as well. So thanks again for joining us today. We'll see you here again next week for the same AVA. Anything to add before we let everyone go, Nicole or Emily?
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all.
Cool. Thanks. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.